Okay, in this video we're going to be looking at how easy it is to create copies of invoices, work with drafts, and have a look at the trash. So we pick up where we left off before. We've got invoice number 1 here. Supposing we need to raise a new invoice, so we can double click on that to the same person, or perhaps something very similar but for 800. Like that, we do save as new and do save, and we've immediately created a new invoice number 2. As normal, we can edit that, we can change it, and so on. So maybe that we want to create a new one based on this as well, maybe to Mrs. Smith, let's say, at Smith Industries still, same email address. And this is for work done of 800 as well. So we do save as new, and there we are, we've now got 3, and that one's to Mrs. Smith. Now, it may also be that this one here was an error. We shouldn't have invoiced Mr. Smith at all, it should have been Mrs. Smith. So we need to do a credit note. So the way we do that is we edit invoice number 2, change it to credit note, save it as a new one, and just do save. And there we are, a credit note to Mr. Smith for 800 for the same thing. So those two can match each other off. So creating invoices based on previous ones is very, very easy. You can achieve a similar sort of thing with drafts. So it may be that we want to create a draft invoice here, or credit note, to Mr. Smith, let's say, and all the usual things. We should have an email, of course, in order to be able to email it at the end, but for the moment we will just have a line item for work, and we don't know how much it's going to be. So if we just do save, that is a draft invoice. And then when we do know what it is, it's got 0 number, we can later on come along and open it up, and we can say, well, we now know that it's 500, so we put in 500, and we can save it as a draft, or we can save it as a real invoice. So if I do save as an invoice, there it is, number 5 for 500 to Mr. Smith. The draft is still there. It may be that we want to use it again in the future. So it may be that you set up several drafts if you've got several different templates that you typically use invoicing for the same sort of things. Equally, you can permanently delete selected rows, and that one's gone. So it's up to you. So invoices and credit notes are very easy to create based on previous ones. Save yourself a lot of typing. Now there are a few other things you can do as well to save yourself some typing. And so if we open up and edit this one here, you may want, instead of having to type in customers all the time, to select them from a list. So if you right click, up comes a list, and you can select K Smith, and it's got K Smith, all the information. Don't worry that these are commas and not new lines. The invoice will show them as separate lines, but they're always stored here as commas. So that's fine. So if we save that, and it's now K Smith Corp, and if we edit it, we can go and change whatever we want and create an invoice. Those customers are stored over here, so you can set them up as you wish, and you've got customer name and address, and there's some tips here. Enter your customer's client in this column with name and address separated by commas, not with new lines. You can put in their email addresses, and it doesn't matter if they're hyperlinked or not. You can put in a Dear John and a Dear Kate, and that's just later on when we create invoices based from these and emails. The email can be addressed Dear John or Dear Kate. It starts nicely. You can put in terms for different clients, and later on, if we want to, when you're chasing for outstanding payments, if it's a different email address, maybe a separate credit control email address, then you can put that over there, and that one will be used. Otherwise, the one that you've invoiced to will be used. But we'll look at that in a later video. So that's the Customers tab. That's this tab here. So we saw on the Drafts tab how we can delete invoices. So we could delete all those 3 if we wanted to. But the only thing I'd warn you is if you do that, when you create a new invoice, it'll be a new number 3. So actually, doing it that way is not such a good way for real invoices. If this one genuinely is a mistake and wants to be deleted, it's recommended that you trash it. Send this item to trash. Yes. Move to trash. Cancel. And you can see now it goes 1, 2, 4, 5. If you look in the trash can, there's invoice number 3. You can always edit that, and you can always save it as a new invoice if you didn't mean to trash it and you want a new number. can save that as a new one. That's now number 6. The original one is still in trash, and you can empty your trash can in the normal way permanently. Delete selected rows if you wish. Let's do it. That one's gone. But it's useful perhaps to keep a record of trashed invoices, so we would recommend you don't use the permanently delete selected rows here, but we've given you the option if you wish to. It is at the end of the day your data. Finally, there are one or two other things we can point out. If this invoice should not be number 6, it should be something different. If you right click there, you'll be prompted for a number, and you can put in number 8, do OK, and that's now changed to number 8. Obviously you could do save as new, or we can just do overwrite, and you'll see that that invoice is now number 8. So you have control over your invoices.